The Grand Assembly Hall of the Galactic Council was a sight to behold. Suspended in the depths of space, it was an immense structure, a neutral gathering point for species from across the galaxy. The station was designed to embody peace, with its transparent walls offering a breathtaking view of distant stars and swirling nebulae. Inside, representatives of hundreds of different civilizations took their seats, their faces an array of strange colors, shapes, and expressions. Today was unlike any other, however, for this was a day that would make history. The Council had convened for a high-stakes meeting, a discussion that could potentially change the balance of power across the galaxy. The human species, under the leadership of Ambassador Kale, had been invited to participate in a delicate treaty that could bring an era of peace between two warring factions. But things had not gone as planned. Ambassador Kyle, a tall, sharp-eyed diplomat, had always been proud of his role in representing Earth in the galactic theater. He had worked tirelessly to ensure that humanity's voice was heard, respected, and understood. But when a disagreement had erupted during the negotiations, a misunderstanding quickly escalated into accusations. The Council, known for its strict protocols, had no tolerance for such disturbances. The charge against Kale was grave. He was accused of undermining the sanctity of the negotiations, of stirring tensions that threatened the fragile peace between the factions. A brief trial was held, and though Kale defended his actions, his words fell on deaf ears. The decision was swift and unforgiving. Ambassador Kale was sentenced to execution. Across the galaxy, Earth's citizens watched in shock as the verdict was announced. The human race had never before been subject to such a punishment, and the news spread like wildfire. Never had a human been put to death by the Galactic Council. This was unprecedented. Earth's leaders, political figures, and civilians alike struggled to comprehend what had just occurred. There were cries of injustice, a rising sense of betrayal. How could this happen? How could an ambassador of humanity be treated this way? The outrage on Earth was palpable, and it seemed that the foundation of trust between the humans and the rest of the galaxy had been shattered in an instant. Ambassador Kale's execution was set to take place in the heart of the Assembly Hall, in full view of the Council members and broadcast to billions across the galaxy. The tension in the air was thick as Kale was led to the center of the chamber, his face a picture of calm defiance. As the executioner's beam was prepared, all eyes were on the screen. In an instant, the life of Earth's representative was extinguished. His body collapsed to the floor, and the chamber fell silent, the weight of the moment sinking in. To the rest of the galaxy, it was a brutal demonstration of power. The human race had been humbled, their champion struck down, and the Council felt secure in their dominance. But what they didn't know was that this moment, the very public death of their ambassador, had triggered something far more dangerous than they could ever have anticipated. Back on Earth, far away from the glare of the Council's cameras, the Vengeance Protocol was silently set into motion. It was a contingency plan, a secret measure created long ago by Earth's government, designed to respond to the unthinkable. Kale's death had been the trigger, and now Earth was preparing to act. The Vengeance Protocol had been in place for years, a network of hidden technologies, sleeper agents, and powerful AI systems designed to ensure humanity's survival and protection no matter what. Earth's government, deeply aware of the fragile nature of their place in the galaxy, had quietly built a network of advanced weaponry and countermeasures, preparing for the worst-case scenario. No one had imagined it would come to this, but now it had. The Council's action had set off a chain reaction that would echo across the stars. The protocol wasn't just about revenge, it was about survival. Earth's true power, long hidden from the rest of the galaxy, was now awakening. And the Council had no idea what was coming. In the days that followed, strange things began to happen. Communications from Earth became more guarded, and rumors started to spread among the other species. Earth's silent forces, its vast intelligence networks, were shifting into high gear. Meanwhile, the Galactic Council, still riding high on their apparent victory, began to feel a subtle unease, a sense that they had underestimated humanity. They had killed one ambassador, but they had no idea that in doing so, they had awakened a force that would soon make the galaxy rethink everything they knew about the human race. And for the first time, the Council was beginning to feel the stirrings of doubt. Perhaps they had made a grave mistake. For decades, Earth had been preparing for the unimaginable. Beneath the surface of their quiet, everyday existence, the human race had been quietly strengthening its position, building an unseen arsenal that no one in the galaxy knew existed. The Vengeance Protocol had been developed in secrecy by Earth's government, a plan designed to ensure humanity's survival and retaliation should their ambassador or their people ever face extreme harm at the hands of the Galactic Council or any other galactic power. It was a last resort measure, a contingency that no one had dared to consider until now. Ambassador Kale's brutal execution had triggered it, and the consequences would soon ripple through the stars. The first sign of Earth's hidden power came swiftly. Without warning, human-made warships, sleek and imposing, emerged from deep space, appearing suddenly in orbit around the Galactic Council's neutral space station. These were not the ships that the Council had ever encountered before. Their design was unlike anything the galaxy had seen, a mix of sharp, angular lines and smooth, flowing surfaces. The ships glinted with strange metals that no one could identify, and their engines hummed with a deep, unsettling power. The Council's sensors scrambled to analyze them, but before they could respond, the warship's advanced AI systems kicked into gear. These weren't simple machines. They were hyper-intelligent, capable of adapting to and reacting faster than anything the galaxy had ever known. The AI systems within the ships had been crafted from the very alien technologies Earth had scavenged and reverse-engineered over the years. They had studied the best of the galaxy's technological advancements, tweaking and improving them until they had created a fleet that far outclassed anything the Council could muster. Unlike other ships that relied on sluggish, pre-programmed tactics, these warships could think and adapt in real time, analyzing every move the Council made and countering it before anyone even realized it. Their speed was unmatched, and their weapons, when deployed, were devastating. Laser beams, pulse cannons, and gravimetric projectiles that could tear through even the toughest of shields. The humans had never been truly passive. They had simply been biding their time. As Earth's warships silently encircled the neutral space station, the Council was thrown into chaos. The station's commanders scrambled to organize a defense, but it was already too late. The ships were everywhere, their presence a grim reminder of humanity's true strength. The Council's defense systems were no match for the sudden onslaught, and within moments, a powerful energy wave from Earth's ships disabled the station's primary shields. The station, once considered an invulnerable fortress, was now helpless against the human-made weaponry. What made this attack even more unsettling was the fact that it wasn't just a show of power. Earth's government had activated a series of sleeper agents, humans scattered throughout the galaxy, living in plain sight among the different species. These agents, each embedded within key positions in the galactic governments and military, were now activated as well. The galaxy would soon realize that they had underestimated the humans at every turn. It wasn't just Earth's advanced warships they had to fear. It was the entire infrastructure of humanity's covert operations, woven into the fabric of the galaxy without anyone even knowing it. The Council's grip on power had been shaken to its core. Back on Earth, as humanity watched the news unfold, they felt a strange mixture of triumph and apprehension. The Vengeance Protocol had worked too well. But as the first wave of Earth's retaliation struck, there was no turning back. This wasn't a simple act of revenge. It was a message. The galaxy now knew that the human race was no longer a small, fragile species to be pushed around. They were a force to be reckoned with, a power that could strike from the shadows and destroy anything in their path. As the ships continued to hover around the Council's space station, the galaxy's various factions began to take notice. The balance of power had shifted, and no one knew what humanity would do next. The Council, shaken and rattled by this unexpected display of strength, convened in an emergency session to discuss their options. Some spoke of negotiating with the humans, seeking a peaceful resolution, while others, more militant in their approach, called for an immediate counterattack. The decision was not easy, for they now knew they were facing a new, unpredictable enemy, one that had already proven itself capable of bringing the galaxy's mightiest organization to its knees. But there was one thing that was certain. The Vengeance Protocol had been activated, and Earth would never be the same again. The galaxy had just learned a lesson it would not forget. Beneath Earth's surface, hidden deep within the oceans and untouched by human hands for centuries, lay a secret far more terrifying than the galaxy could ever imagine. This secret, known only to a select few, was the culmination of decades of planning by the Silent Vanguard, a clandestine group of elite military personnel, scientists, and engineers. Their purpose had always been clear: to ensure that humanity would never again find itself at the mercy of any galactic empire, no matter how powerful. While the galaxy believed Earth to be a fragile, insignificant planet, the Vanguard had quietly and secretly prepared for a day like this, a day when humanity would be forced to show its true strength. As the conflict deepened, and with Earth's warships wreaking havoc on the Galactic Council's neutral station, the Vanguard's moment had finally arrived. The time had come to activate the weapon they had kept dormant for centuries, an ancient, planet-sized device buried far beneath the world's oceans. Known only to a few as the Titan's Wrath, this was no ordinary weapon. It had been created long before humanity's rise, a relic from an ancient civilization that had understood the power to control the very forces of nature. The Titan's Wrath was capable of manipulating gravitational fields, bending them to the will of its user, and in the wrong hands, it could be a force of unimaginable destruction. When the device was activated, the planet itself seemed to shudder in response. Far below the waves, deep in the forgotten caverns beneath Earth's oceans, massive machines roared to life. The Titan's Wrath began its slow, deliberate rise toward the surface. Its power was not immediate, but as the gravitational fields it manipulated expanded, a new sense of dread filled the air. The weapon didn't just affect Earth, it began to reach far beyond, altering the orbits of nearby moons and satellites, pulling them slightly off course. The gravitational influence was subtle at first, but its reach was vast, stretching out toward the stars themselves. The effects of the Titan's Wrath were far more than the world's leaders had expected. As the device hummed with power, Earth found itself holding the ability to control entire star systems. Entire planets, once free to roam their orbits, could now be dragged and twisted, moved as easily as one might move a piece on a board. It could create massive gravitational storms, storms so violent that no ship, human or alien, could withstand them. Fleets of warships could be torn apart with a simple shift in gravity, and entire cities could be wiped off the map with a single command. As the news of this hidden power spread, it shocked the galaxy to its core. Earth was no longer the weak, defenseless planet that had once been looked down upon. The activation of Titan's Wrath sent a clear message to the rest of the galaxy. Humanity had arrived. But more than that, they had found a way to turn the tables. No longer would they be at the mercy of the Galactic Council or any other faction. With the Titan's Wrath, Earth had the power to dominate, if they so chose. The revelation of this weapon brought the human race together in a way that had never been seen before. The Vengeance Protocol, initially a response to Kale's death, had evolved into something far greater, a rallying cry for humanity to unite. Earth's citizens, from the humblest worker to the highest-ranking official, now stood together under a single banner, their collective strength unshakable. The news of Earth's newfound power spread like wildfire across the globe, and the people, once divided, now embraced their destiny with a fierce determination. They no longer feared the galaxy, they were the galaxy's new power. Meanwhile, the Galactic Council watched in horror as Earth's presence in the galaxy was forever transformed. No longer could they treat humanity as an insignificant player, a species to be manipulated and dismissed. With the Titan's wrath now in play, the Council's once unquestioned dominance was under threat. The alliance between the various species began to crack, as some began to question whether siding with the humans might be the wisest course of action. Others, fearful of Earth's growing power, began to prepare their own fleets for a conflict that seemed inevitable. The tides of war had shifted. No longer were humans simply victims of galactic politics. Now, they were contenders, formidable, strong, and ready to defend their place in the stars. But with the activation of such power came a dangerous responsibility. The galaxy was watching, and Earth's next steps would determine whether they would be seen as liberators or conquerors. The fate of the galaxy now rested in the hands of the human race, and no one knew what kind of future they would choose to build. But one thing was certain: humanity's vengeance was no longer a simple act of retaliation. It was a declaration of dominance, and the universe would have to take notice. The Galactic Council had underestimated humanity. It had been a mistake they were now regretting deeply. Earth's sudden rise to power, the activation of the Titan's wrath, and the fierce retaliation against the Council's space station sent shockwaves through the galaxy. The Council's leadership was in disarray, their once unified front now splintering. While some species hesitated, unsure of how to respond to this new threat, others began to take notice of Earth's growing might. Among the chaos, a powerful, ambitious alien warlord from a distant, war-hardened species saw an opportunity. Driven by a hunger for power and a desire to crush humanity once and for all, this warlord began to form a coalition of like-minded factions within the Council. The goal was simple: unite to suppress humanity before their influence could spread any further. But the Council's response was far from smooth. Their forces were scattered across the galaxy, engaged in various conflicts and peacekeeping efforts, leaving them unable to mount an immediate counterattack. The Council's leaders were divided. Some wanted to fight back aggressively, launching an all-out war to teach humanity a lesson. Others, more cautious, feared that engaging in open conflict with a species that could manipulate gravitational fields could lead to irreversible consequences. Despite the growing pressure, the factions that wanted to suppress Earth found themselves at an impasse. As the warlords' coalition began to gather support, internal disputes continued to slow their efforts. The Council's unity, once the hallmark of its power, was beginning to unravel. Meanwhile, back on Earth, a new generation of leaders was rising. The Vengeance Protocol had been activated, but humanity had not become consumed by blind revenge. A more strategic mindset was taking hold. The world now stood on the precipice of galactic dominance, and the stakes were higher than ever. The leaders of Earth knew that despite their technological advantages, they had to be cautious. A full-scale war with the Council would stretch their resources, and humanity could not afford to make mistakes. Some factions on Earth, fueled by anger and loss, called for immediate retaliation. They wanted to strike hard and fast, crippling the Council's forces before they had a chance to organize. Yet, there were others, more pragmatic voices, who pushed for a more measured approach. Among them was Commander Alia Kane, a young, brilliant officer who had risen through the ranks with a reputation for diplomacy and tactical brilliance. She saw the bigger picture and understood that Earth's survival did not hinge solely on destroying the Council. It was about securing their place in the galaxy and ensuring humanity's future. Commander Kane pushed for a diplomatic solution, arguing that humanity should show strength, but not abandon the possibility of negotiation. As tensions between the factions on Earth escalated, so too did the pressure from the Council's newly formed coalition. The warlords' forces were preparing for an all-out assault. Plans for a full-scale attack on Earth's fleet were already in motion, and the first wave of ships was on its way. The entire galaxy held its breath. The Council, now united in their decision to crush humanity, had sent their fleet toward Earth's defenses. The battle that was about to unfold would decide the fate of both humanity and the Council's future. But just as the Council's ships began to enter Earth's orbit, something unexpected happened. A strange, mysterious presence stirred in the void of space. Without warning, a new fleet appeared from beyond the fringes of the galaxy. These ships were unlike anything Earth or the Council had ever seen. They were ancient, their designs resembling the ruins of a long-forgotten civilization. The ships were massive, far larger than anything the Council or Earth had ever encountered. Their surfaces were covered in intricate patterns, glowing with an eerie, soft light. And the most unsettling part, there was no sign of life aboard the ships. The vessels seemed to operate independently, as if guided by a force older than any species alive today. This new force, which had been quietly observing humanity's rise, was no longer content with staying in the shadows. They had come to make their presence known. The galaxy watched in stunned silence as these ancient ships positioned themselves between Earth's fleet and the Council's forces. The architects, as they were called, had finally revealed themselves. Their motives, their intentions, no one knew. But their arrival had thrown the entire conflict into uncertainty. The battle that was about to erupt was now complicated by the appearance of this new and mysterious race. The architects had not come to negotiate, and they had not come to side with either humanity or the Council. Their presence was a wild card, one that no one had predicted. And as the first shots from the Council's fleet were about to be fired, the question echoed through the galaxy. Would the architects become humanity's allies, or would they be the force that tipped the scales? Against them? The answer, however, would not come easily. The architects had arrived, their sudden appearance, looming like ancient gods over the ongoing conflict, had already shifted the balance of power in the galaxy. These beings, impossibly advanced and shrouded in mystery, were not only an unknown force, they were the true originators of the very technologies that the Galactic Council and humanity itself had relied upon for centuries. The architects revealed that they were a long-forgotten species, once the rulers of vast portions of the galaxy. They had shaped civilizations, advanced the technology of countless worlds, and built the very foundation upon which the galaxy's greatest powers had risen. Yet, despite their former dominance, they had been forced into hiding after a cataclysmic conflict with the ancestors of the Galactic Council. This war, which had nearly destroyed the galaxy, had left the architects weakened and fractured, leading them to retreat into the depths of space, waiting for the right moment to reveal themselves once more. Now, the architects had chosen this moment. And they were not here to simply observe, they had a proposition. They offered humanity a choice unlike any the galaxy had ever faced. They presented themselves as the key to unlocking Earth's full potential, a power that had been unintentionally nurtured over generations. The architects claimed that humanity's rise, their unexpected emergence as a galactic power, was no accident. It had been set in motion long ago, by forces beyond Earth's comprehension. And now the time had come for humanity to join them in rebuilding the galaxy. They promised Earth unimaginable power, the ability to reshape the universe, to control vast fleets of ships, and to unlock technologies that could change the course of history. But they also warned that rejecting their offer would come with consequences far worse than anyone could imagine, annihilation at their hands, swift and absolute. The architects' power was vast, and their willingness to use it was not in question. This revelation sent shockwaves through both Earth and the Galactic Council. Humanity, still reeling from their sudden emergence as a power to be reckoned with, now found themselves at a crossroads. The architects were offering them the very future they had been fighting for. But at what cost? The temptation to accept their offer was undeniable. It promised an era of unmatched growth and prosperity for humanity, an age where Earth could become the dominant force in the galaxy. But in accepting the architects' guidance, humanity would also be submitting to their control, entering into an unknown alliance with an ancient race that had once shaped the galaxy in its image. As Earth's leaders gathered in tense deliberation, Commander Alia Kane found herself at the center of the debate. Alia, a woman known for her strategic brilliance and her commitment to preserving humanity's independence, was torn. On one hand, the architects' offer was like nothing humanity could have dreamed of. The sheer power they promised was almost too great to ignore. Yet, on the other hand, Alia could not shake the nagging feeling that the architects' true motives were still hidden beneath the surface. Their warning of annihilation seemed more like a veiled threat, one meant to force humanity's compliance. Could they truly be trusted? Were the architects offering their help out of benevolence, or was this just another form of manipulation? The stakes had never been higher, and Alia was faced with the impossible task of making a decision that would define the future of Earth and the galaxy itself. Meanwhile, the Galactic Council was scrambling to respond. A faction within the Council, still reeling from the shock of the architects' arrival, urgently reached out to Earth, urging them to reconsider their path. They promised an end to the violence, a return to peace, and the possibility of a new treaty with the Council. But the offer felt empty in the face of the architects' overwhelming presence. The Council, divided and uncertain, knew they could not compete with the architects' power. And as if to prove their point, a massive, mysterious object appeared on the edge of Earth's solar system. Its size was immense, its shape unlike anything seen before, and it seemed to be on a direct course toward Earth. Was this a sign from the architects, or was it a new threat entirely? Humanity now stood at a precipice. The fate of the galaxy was hanging in the balance, and the next move would determine whether Earth would align with the architects, seek peace with the Galactic Council, or stand firm against both. The pressure was unbearable. As the object moved ever closer, the question that loomed large in the minds of Earth's leaders was whether to trust the architects' promises of power and prosperity, or to fight for humanity's independence, no matter the cost. Commander Alia Kane, the one voice of reason amidst the chaos, knew that whatever decision they made would echo through the stars for centuries to come. And as the mysterious object continued its approach, time was running out. The war had reached its peak. Earth's vengeance protocol, once a secret, had become the backbone of humanity's fight for survival. In the cold vacuum of space, Earth's fleets clashed with the combined might of the Galactic Council and the architects. Massive warships, their gleaming hulls painted with the colors of countless alien species, filled the blackness of the galaxy. The battle raged on, a deadly dance of laser fire and explosive blasts, as human ships, sleek, fast, and powered by the reverse-engineered alien technology, fought back with fierce determination. Commander Alia Kane, ever the strategist, led her forces with unmatched precision, coordinating attacks, rallying her crew, and striking the enemy with the deadly efficiency that had made humanity's fleet feared across the galaxy. Yet, despite their overwhelming technological advantages, Earth's forces were not invincible. The architects, with their vast, godlike power, remained a looming threat, their ships moving with an eerie silence as they revealed more and more of their capabilities. Every new piece of technology they unveiled seemed to shift the balance, in their favor. Earth's warships began to question if they were more than just pawns in a game controlled by a much larger force, a force that seemed determined to use humanity as a tool, rather than an ally. As the battle intensified, something Unexpected happened. Amidst the chaos and the overwhelming power of the architects, a group of alien species who had long suffered under the oppressive reign of the Galactic Council defected to humanity's side. These species, once cowering under the Council's rule, had witnessed Earth's rise and saw in humanity the chance for true freedom. They brought with them valuable intelligence, information about Council strategies, weak points in the architects' designs, and even secret communication channels that could turn the tide of war. In addition to this intelligence, they offered vital reinforcements, ships, technology, and warriors from species who had long been crushed under the Council's heel. For the first time in centuries, these alien factions found themselves fighting not for survival, but for something greater, a chance to build a new galaxy, one where they could no longer be ruled by the whims of the Council. The lines between friend and foe began to blur as old grudges were put aside, and a new alliance was forged in the fires of war. In the face of overwhelming odds, this diverse coalition of rebels, led by Earth, began to stand tall, showing that the desire for freedom could unite even the most unlikely of allies. However, as Earth's forces gained strength, an unexpected and terrifying twist threatened to unravel everything. The Titan's Wrath, the ancient weapon buried beneath Earth's oceans and one of humanity's greatest assets, began to malfunction. The gravitational field it manipulated, the very thing that had given humanity such power, started to destabilize. Massive gravitational anomalies surged across the solar system. Planets, moons, and asteroids began to shift unpredictably. Ships found themselves thrown off course, their systems overwhelmed by the sudden shifts in gravity. Entire fleets that had relied on the stability the Titan's Wrath provided were now scrambling to regain control. The gravitational anomalies were threatening to tear Earth itself apart. What had once been a symbol of humanity's strength was now becoming their greatest risk. Without the Titan's Wrath, Earth's position in the galaxy would be shattered. The final battle against the Council and the Architects, everything humanity had fought for, was now in jeopardy. Commander Kane, already at the heart of the conflict, now faced a new and even more critical challenge: repairing the Titan's Wrath or risk losing everything. Time was running out. Earth's fleets had already engaged the enemy in an all-out assault, and now, with the solar system thrown into chaos, every move could be their last. The Architects' ships moved closer, their mysterious presence looming like an unavoidable storm. Even as new alliances were forged and humanity's resolve strengthened, they were not immune to the consequences of their own power. The very weapon they had relied on to defend Earth was now threatening to undo all their efforts. With the Titan's Wrath malfunctioning, and the war against the Architects and the Galactic Council reaching its final crescendo, Earth stood at a precipice. If the weapon wasn't fixed, Earth's fleets would be unable to defend themselves, and all hope of a new era of freedom would be lost. Commander Kane and her team, racing against the clock, scrambled to find a way to stabilize the weapon before it was too late. But as the gravitational distortions grew more intense, a new question arose. Would the Architects, who had been waiting patiently, step in to help? Or would they seize the opportunity to destroy humanity once and for all? The fate of Earth and of the galaxy hung in the balance, and as the final battle loomed, no one knew which way the galaxy would tip. The war had reached its boiling point. Earth, its fleets battered and on the brink of destruction, stood at the edge of oblivion. Commander Alia Kane, her mind sharp and focused despite the chaos unfolding around her, now faced the ultimate decision. The Titan's Wrath, Earth's most powerful weapon, was still malfunctioning, causing gravitational anomalies that threatened not only the planet, but the entire solar system. With every passing moment, the stakes grew higher and the forces of the Galactic Council and the Architects closed in. Earth's future, and the future of the galaxy, depended on her actions. She had one choice: use the Titan's Wrath to end the war once and for all, knowing it could potentially tear apart much of the galaxy in the process, or find a way to negotiate peace before humanity lost everything they had fought for. The weight of the decision was immense. If Alia activated the weapon, Earth could obliterate the Council's forces and even the architects. But at what cost? The destruction would be catastrophic. Entire star systems could be thrown into chaos. And what of the innocent species caught in the crossfire? Could humanity truly take that final step toward total annihilation, just to win a war that had already cost so much? But if she hesitated, if she sought peace with the very forces that had sought to destroy Earth and oppress the galaxy for centuries, would humanity's efforts be seen as weakness? Would they lose the very hard-won power they had fought so hard to claim? The decision was agonizing, but Alia knew that she could not hesitate for much longer. Time was running out. In a dramatic and unexpected turn, as Earth's final forces prepared for what seemed to be the last desperate assault, Commander Kane made her choice. She didn't rely on the Titan's wrath, nor did she yield to the Architects or the Galactic Council. Instead, she offered the galaxy an ultimatum. It was a daring move, an invitation for all civilizations to join humanity in forging a new future. The message was clear. Join us in building a new galaxy, one where justice, freedom, and unity reign, or face the consequences of continued tyranny. The Council, the Architects, and every species across the galaxy could hear her, words echoing through the vastness of space. But it was the Architects who responded first. Their ancient, enigmatic form appeared once again, their glowing presence now tinged with something unexpected: respect. They revealed their true intentions. They had not come to Earth to destroy, but to test humanity's ability to evolve beyond their initial programming. For eons they had watched as civilizations rose and fell, and they had seen the same patterns emerge again and again. But humanity had surprised them. In the face of destruction, humans had chosen not just vengeance, but a vision for a better future. They had displayed courage, wisdom, and strength, qualities the Architects had hoped to see. This was not just about power, it was about growth, about becoming something greater than their origins. Now, with Earth's display of unity and resolve, the Architects were willing to bend the knee. The galaxy, once ruled by the will of a few, now had to bow to humanity's vision for the future. The final war had ended not in the destruction of the galaxy, but in a new beginning. The Galactic Council, seeing the truth in Alia's words, agreed to work alongside Earth. Even the alien factions who had once served the Council now stood united under humanity's banner. In the aftermath, Earth's place in the galaxy was no longer just that of a survivor, but of a leader. Earth became the new center of power, not because they wielded fear, but because they offered something far greater: unity, prosperity, and the promise of a new era where all species could flourish. They had proven that humanity's vengeance was not a pursuit of destruction, but of justice. The galaxy would be rebuilt, but it would not be ruled by those who sought power for themselves. Instead, it would be a galaxy where every species had a voice, where no civilization was oppressed, and where peace could finally take root. As Earth stood on the threshold of this new era, Commander Alia Kane looked up at the stars, a sense of pride filling her heart. They had earned their place in the stars, not by conquering the galaxy, but by showing the galaxy that humanity's greatest strength was not in their weapons or their power, but in their ability to rise above the darkness and build something better. The war was over, the reckoning had come, and humanity had emerged victorious, not through destruction, but through the courage to build a future for all.